Hello, this time we are not covering a true crime case. This will be a fictional story, so for this occasion, we are not drinking store-bought wine. We are drinking homemade wine. It starts with a woman by the name of Carol. One day, she called 911. She was frantic. She said, "I think someone's inside my house. You need to come right now." The police rushed over, 2 police officers to be precise. Let's call them Jake and Jane. They rushed over, went inside of the house and searched it inch by inch. They did not find any intruder, not a single hair, nothing. It seemed like nobody was inside of the house. And they said that they do get a lot of calls like this. This is not abnormal. But what is abnormal about this situation is that it's usually when you have women living alone, they're getting old, they have dementia, their mind starts deteriorating, it's a sad thing. And so they do get a lot of calls like this from them. But in this case, the difference is that Carol was 24, she seemed like she was of good mental health, but she seemed really shooken up and she didn't seem like she was making it up. So they started investigating. They felt kind of weird. But after they searched the entire house from top to bottom, they did not find anything. And what else can they do? So they had to leave. An hour later, Carol called 911 again, and they went again, and again, they realized that nobody was there. Again. But for some reason, they didn't exactly know how to put it, but for some reason, something felt very distinctly different in the house. They didn't know exactly what it was, but they just felt different. And again, they told her that they couldn't do anything because nobody was in there. There were no signs of a break-in or any crime. And that's when she said, well, you know, here's the thing. I actually took a video of it. And they said, well, Carol, you should have started with that. Show us the video. So she pulled out her phone and she showed them a video, and in that she was frantically breathing. And all of a sudden you hear footsteps coming her way, and she starts screaming, and in the corner of the video you see a man in a full black bodysuit. You can't even see any part of his body, not his eyes, not his face, not his hair, not his hands, nothing. He was in this tight bodysuit, everything covered, and he was chasing after her. So she proceeded into the basement bedroom. She closed the door shut and locked it. And suddenly you hear the footsteps leaving. And so the police saw this video. They didn't really know what to make of it, what to think about it, how to feel about it. They just said that they thought that he had probably left after this. And she said, well, okay, I guess so. But are you sure that he's not still at the house? And the police officer said, no, we checked everywhere, we checked everything. There is nothing we can do at this point, so call us if anything happens. And they proceeded to go to the front door when she realized, wait a minute, this is weird. The door was locked when you got here, but I never left the basement. I stayed down there until you guys arrived. So the officer started thinking, does this mean that he has a key? Did he lock it in his way out? How the hell did he get in? Because if this is a stalker case and he has your keys, or maybe it is like a crazy landlord thing, then we are talking about a serious problem. This is no longer just lock your door, don't leave, just make sure that you're fine, you're safe case. This is a case where things could end really, really badly. So they decided that even though they can't stay in the house with her, they will still park like a block away just to keep a watchful eyes on the house. You know, this time they definitely do want to catch the guy in the bodysuit. And so they were watching. Nothing happened until 2 a.m. when they saw someone walk towards Carol's house. They looked a little bit closer, and that's when they realized that the person who was walking was Carol. So they looked a little bit closer, and that's when they realized that the person walking there was none other than Carol herself. Which was really strange because they did not see her leave the house. So how could she be walking back to her house at 2 in the morning? They got a little bit concerned, but from the car they couldn't really see inside of the house. But they did see that she went inside and she kept turning the lights on and off in the house. So they got out of the car and they proceeded to Carol's front door. They started knocking on the door, but nobody answered. This time the hallway light that you can clearly see from the front door was flickering on and off and on and off and on and off. And they were wondering, is this her telling us that she does not want to be interrupted? Does she want us to leave? And suddenly they got dispatched over the radio and it said, "Hello, are you at Carol's address?" And they said yes, and the dispatch pretty much explained to them that Carol just called and she said that there were multiple people inside of her house. So Jake and Jane immediately called for backup, but they realized this is a worst case scenario, so they broke down the door and ran inside. The lights were flickering, but they thought that this was really weird because they looked at the light switch and it wasn't moving at all, but the lights were flickering on and off and on and off. They kept calling for Carol, but they couldn't find her. So they started thinking, is she being held hostage somewhere? Are the intruders holding her in one of the other rooms and making sure that she doesn't scream, that we don't hear her? So they went room to room to search every single inch of their house for the 3rd time, and they did not find a single soul. Not even Carol, who they had literally just seen walk inside of the house. And then Jake asked, "Do you notice that something is really off again?" And Jean answered, "You know, this is really weird, because the second time we came, I felt subconsciously that something was really off, but I didn't really know how to put it, so I didn't even tell you about it." And then she said, "You know what? There is an extra door in the basement. Last time we came, there was only one." And she said, "Oh my God, I counted 3 this time. There is something really weird in the basement." And as they were saying that, this bitch called in, saying, "You need to get out of the house right now. Carol just called 911 again, and she said that you're all going to die." So immediately they tried to make their way to the front door when they heard footsteps from the basement. So they were like, "Okay, for sure now, we need to get the fuck out." And that's when they heard a knock on the door. And it wasn't a nice, calm, "Hey, okay" knock. It was an agitated. They looked outside and they did not see police lights or cars, so they knew that they were not joined by backup. They looked at each other like, who could it be? And all of a sudden, you hear Carol's voice and she goes, "Could you please open up?" And that's when Jake looked at Jane and says, "You know, we never locked the door." But they opened the front door. It was Carol, and she looked at them and said, "Did you find him?" And they said, "No, we didn't find anyone." And she goes, "I think he's in the basement. You should check the basement." But they said, no, we checked the basement. No one is in the basement. But she just kept asking and saying, are you sure? Are you sure you checked the basement? You don't want to check the basement again. I think he's in the basement. Can you please check the basement? The police officers got so freaked out, they pushed past her through the front door and they made a run for their patrol car. They got to the car, they opened up the doors, they got inside, locked everything, and they just waited for backup. A couple minutes later, backup showed, but it was not the backup that they were expecting. It looked like a SWAT team truck, but it looked like it was a private company. They did not allow police officers to go back inside of the house, and a guy in a suit approached them and started asking them questions. The first question he asked was, how many doors did you count in the house? Which is very peculiar. And they also asked what Carol looked like, which is also very peculiar. As they were answering these questions that they didn't really have a strict answer to, they saw multiple structure. Siri!
I don't see an app called Snapchat. You could try searching the App Store.
They saw multiple structures with white sheets covered being patrolled out of the house and no sign of Carol. They asked, what's going on? Those are obviously dead bodies. We know that. We are police officers. What's going on? But they just answered, thank you for your time, and they left. So even though a bit confused, but the two police officers got back into their car to drive back to the police station to get into their separate cars and go home. They were both quiet for the whole ride, and as they were almost reaching the police station, Jake said, you know, maybe Jack is crazy. And Jane said, what are you talking about? Who's Jack? The guy in the suit? And he said, are you kidding me? She was confused. She was like, what Jack? Do you mean the owner of the house? That's Carol. You mean Carol? Like, we literally just saw Carol. What? What? Are you losing it? They looked at each other and they both started getting, suspicious of each other. Like, why does this person think it's Carol? And why does this person think it's fucking Jack? So they didn't say anything. They just got into their respective cars and they drove home. And Jane was thinking, you know what? My partner in crime is losing his marbles. Too many years on the force will do that to somebody. She was laying in bed, about to fall asleep, when she got a call. And it said, you're on call, so we need you to go to this address. A woman called and she says that somebody broke into her house. And the address was Carol's address. Do you get it? So the reason that they are seeing different people, Joan was seeing Jack and Jane was seeing Carol, is because this house is made for you to see whatever is easier to bring you down to the basement. And the reason that they had so many stretchers coming out is because those were all fallen police officers that the house was killing. Crazy, huh? Yeah, so this is a fictional story, but, it can really spook you out at night. So yeah, that's it. See you next time, and I will be back with a true crime story again. And last sip of my delicious homemade wine. I didn't make it. Obviously, it was a gift. So I will be back next time with store-bought wine and a true crime story, so one last. See you next time. Bye.